Hey everybody, welcome to Saman's classes and like, share and subscribe my videos if you like them. Also hit the bell icon for latest uploads for the notifications of those. And today, as you can see in the title, we are going to read about the chapter Madam Rides the Bus by Vali Kannan. It is very important, first of all, you should always read about the writer of a story. For your exams, there is one question that comes: who is the writer of a particular story, whatever the name of the story is, they can always ask you that. So, if you are thorough with the names of the chapters and the writers, it is a plus point for you, and you can get marks there. Those are like easy marks. Let's start. First of all, let's read before you read. It is a short description of the story that we are going to read now. So let's see. In this sensitive story, an 8-year-old girl's first bus journey into the world outside her village is also her induction into the mystery of life and death. She sees the gap between our knowing that there is death and our understanding of it. Now, knowing about death, that there is death and life, is a different thing from understanding it. We all know that there is death, but do we understand it? Do we understand what death is? So, that is what she comes to know about life and death in this story. This is an 8-year-old girl. She is taking her first bus ride into the world outside her village. Till now, she has just seen life inside her village. Now she is going outside. Also, you can see on the screen that there is this activity that you can do on your own. Let's start off with the chapter itself. There was a girl named Valiammai who was also called Vali for short. She was 8 years old and very curious about things. Her favorite pastime was standing in the front doorway of a house, watching what was happening in the street outside. There were no playmates of her own age on the streets, and this was about all she had to do. But for Wali, standing at the front door was every bit as enjoyable as any of the elaborate games other children played. Watching the street gave her many new, unusual experiences. So, here there's a description of the girl, the 8-year-old girl, Wali. Her name is very important. It could be asked that what is the short form of Valia Mai or what is the full form of Vali. So, like for MCQs, these are small questions that can come sometimes, not always, but you should know such little details. So, this girl was very curious about things, curious in the way she wanted to know what this is about, what things are about, why things are like they are. So her favorite pastime was to stand in front of her in the front doorway of her house. Her pastime was that she used to stand on her front door, the main door of her house, and look at what is happening on the street in front of her house. Okay, and she used to enjoy looking outside her door as if it was a big, huge game that she used to play because there were no playmates of her own age. Okay, in on that street, in the street that she lived in, there were no playmates, like there were no friends of hers who were of her own age. So she watched the street, and which also gave her many unusual experiences. You know, different things happened on the street, and she used to enjoy everything. The most fascinating thing of all was the bus that traveled between her village and the nearest town. First of all, you can see that there is a picture of Valli standing on her door, on the main door of her house, and looking outside the house. And on the street, what we can see, there is a bus that is going from the front of her house. Okay, so the most fascinating thing, the most interesting thing that she saw, something that made her really like it, was that there was a bus that traveled between her village and the nearest little town that was near her village, that she used to watch that bus. It passed through her street each hour, once going to the town and once coming back. The sight of the bus filled each time with a new set of passengers was a source of unending joy for Valli. And whenever that bus passed her street, every hour that bus was passing her street, okay, and whenever that bus was passing her street, there were a new set of passengers on the bus, and that was very, very, very enjoyable for Valli. She used to like enjoy it, watching new passengers in every ride of the bus. Day after day, she watched the bus, and gradually a tiny wish crept into her head and grew there. She wanted to ride on that bus, even if just once. Every day she was watching the bus going by from her street, and with new passengers every time, and she used to really enjoy it. And by watching the bus, there was a small wish that built up in her mind. And head here means mind, crept means built up, something that starts, okay, a start of a thought, crept. And what was that wish? That she wanted to ride that bus, she wanted to sit in that bus, and she wanted to travel in that bus, even if she was going to do that for once in her life, but she wanted to. That was the wish that she had in her mind. This wish became stronger and stronger until it was an overwhelming desire. Whenever we want something in life, even if it is a game or a cycle or a bike or whatever, we wish for it first, and then we strongly believe that we want it, you know, and then it gets overwhelming. So just like that, Vali also was overwhelmed with desire. She wanted it now. It wasn't just a little wish for her now. Every day, that wish became stronger and she wanted to do that. It was her desire. Vali would stare wistfully at the people who got on or off the bus when it stopped at the street corner. Wistfully, you can see there is this meaning given here, longingly, like watching something with the feeling that I also want to do this, like that. She was watching the bus and she wanted to sit there in that bus. Their faces would kindle in her longings, dreams, and hopes. If one of her friends happened to ride the bus and tried to describe the sights of the town to her, Wally would be too jealous to listen and would shout in English, "Proud, proud." Neither she nor her friends really understood the meaning of the word, but they used it often as a slang expression of disapproval. And whenever any of her friends spoke about the bus ride, and they talked about what happened on the bus ride, she used to get very, very jealous of them, and she would start shouting proud, proud in English, and nobody knew the meaning of that word, but they used it as a slang to show that we don't like it. Here there is a meaning of kindle that you can see. set alight feelings. You can read that if you want to. Over many days and months, Wali listened carefully to conversations between her neighbors and people who regularly use the bus. And she also asked a few discreet questions here and there. For many days and months, Wali always asked a few questions here and there about the bus journey, and she heard what people and her neighbors said about it. This way, she picked up various small details about the bus journey. The town was 6 miles from her village. Now, what are the things that she picked up or she got answers of the questions that she wanted? See, here there is on the right side in the picture on your screen, discreet questions means careful questions. She didn't ask anything here and there, but she asked questions very carefully. So, what are the things that she learned about the bus journey? That the town was 6 miles away from her village. The fare was 30 paise one way, which is almost nothing at all. She heard one well-dressed man say, but to Wali, who scarcely saw that much money from one month to the next. It seemed a fortune. For Wali, 30 paise meant a fortune. But a well-dressed man who has like who's rich as compared to Wali, for him it's nothing. But for Wali, it is very like a big amount. Okay. The trip to the town took 45 minutes. On reaching town, if she stayed in her seat and paid another 30 paise, she could return home on the same bus. But how much time did it take? 45 minutes. If she stayed in her seat and paid another 30 paise, she could return home on the same bus. Now 30 paise again she has to pay for the return journey. And if she is sitting on the same seat, she can travel in the same bus. From the same bus, she can come back home. This meant that she could take the 1 o'clock afternoon bus, reach the town at 1:45, and be back home by about 2:45. Now, all this is the calculation that she did after getting the information about the bus journey from people and her neighbors. She did this calculation that at 1 o'clock she can go and she'll reach there by 1:45, and then she can come home by about 2:45. On and on went her thoughts as she calculated and recalculated, planned and replanned. Okay, she kept on planning and replanning, and calculations went on about the time and all that. Well, one fine spring day, the afternoon bus was just on the point of leaving the village and turning into the main highway when a small voice was heard shouting, "Stop the bus, stop the bus!" And a tiny hand was raised commandingly. So, which afternoon they are talking about? It was a spring day. Okay, and in the afternoon bus, this happened when there was a small voice heard when the bus was about to leave the bus stop. At that time only, they could hear a small voice, stop the bus, and a tiny hand, small hand was raised commandingly. Commandingly means something like she is commanding, like with authority. She is telling to stop the bus. She's not requesting, but commanding. She's telling, not asking. Okay. The bus slowed down to a crawl, and the conductor, sticking his head out the door, said, "Hurry then. Tell whoever it is to come quickly." "It's me," shouted Wali. "I'm the one who has to get on." Understood?
By now, the bus had come to a stop, and the conductor said, "Oh, really? You don't say so." "Yes, I simply have to go to town," said Bully. Now, the bus conductor could not believe that a little girl would want to travel on the bus all alone, still standing outside the bus. Now, Bully is standing outside the bus and talking to the conductor. "And here's my money." She showed him some coins. And also, she pays him for her journey. "Okay, okay. But first, you must get on the bus," said the conductor. And he stretched out his hand to help her up. "Never mind," she said. "I can get on by myself. You don't have to help me." The conductor was the conductor was a jolly sort, fond of joking. Jolly here means of a joking nature, like a nature of a person who keeps on joking, like who is funny, who talks funny stuff to children and has a happy go lucky kind of a nature. That is what a jolly nature is called.
The conductor was a jolly sort, fond of joking. And as I told you, that the conductor was fond of joking around. "Oh, please, don't be angry with me, my fine madam." So, like jokingly, he said, in a mocking manner, he said that, "Oh, please, don't be angry with me, my fine madam." She's such a little girl, but he's calling her madam, and this is all in a good way. Like he is saying this in a good way, joking with her in a good way because he's liking the little girl, being commanding him around, being in control. So, like that. He said, "Here, have a seat right up there in front. Everybody, move aside, please. Make way for madam." Can you see how he's treating her? Calling her madam. So, all this he was like saying in a joking manner. It was the slack time of day, and there were only 6 or 7 passengers on the bus. Slack time, a time when there is not much work and there are very little passengers. How many? 6 to 7 passengers. They were all looking at Wali and laughing with the conductor. See, I told you he was joking around about Wali, so everybody else was also laughing. Wali was overcome with shyness. Avoiding everyone's eyes, she walked quickly on an empty seat and sat down. Now, when everybody was laughing and adoring her, then she felt shy, and so she kept her eyes down and went to her seat and sat down. "May we start now, madam?" the conductor asked, smiling. Then he blew his whistle twice, and the bus moved forward with a roar. So he's also asking her if they could move now because she, in a very commanding way, in a very controlling way, she had said that, "Wait, and I wanna get up on the bus." Like that. He's treating her just like that. So how many times did he blow his whistle? Twice. And the bus moved forward. It was a new bus. Its outside painted a gleaming white with some green stripes along the side. Inside, the overhead bars shone like silver. Shone is the past tense of shine here. Okay. Directly in front of Bali, above the windshield, there was a beautiful clock. The seats were soft and luxurious. Bali devoured everything with her eyes, and when she started to look outside, she found her view cut off by a canvas blind that covered the lower part of a window. So she stood up on the seat and peered over the blind. So here there could be a small question on the description of the bus because
these things come sometimes and you should do. So it was a new bus, and how the how it had green stripes along the sides, and it was painted a white color. It was a gleaming white. Gleaming means shining and bright white. And she devoured everything with her eyes. Devoured means taking in the beauty, or taking in the appearance of the bus from the outside and the inside. And then when she was looking outside the window, there was a canvas blind. Canvas blind is kind of a curtain. Blind here does not mean that a person who could not see. No. The blind here means the curtain that we have on the seats of the buses. That is what is known as a blind. And canvas is kind of a cloth, uh, stiff cloth kind of a material. So that was the window cover, and she could not see through it because it was on the window that she was sitting on the seat. So she stood up on her seat, and then she was looking outside the window. Peered over the blind means peered means looking outside of the window. The bus was now going along the bank of a canal. The road was very narrow. On one side there was the canal, and beyond it palm trees, grassland, distant mountains, and the blue sky. On the other side was a deep ditch, and then acres and acres of green fields, green, green, green as far as the eye could see. Now here is a description of what Wally saw when she stood on her seat and looked outside of a window or peered over the blind. What she saw, there was a canal, right, and the road was very uh, narrow road. With one side there was a canal, and on the other side, okay, beyond the canal there were palm trees, and then there were grasslands, and then you could see in the distance, you could see mountains, and you could see the blue sky. Here there is a blue is written twice, so uh, there is a emphasis on the color of the sky, the like we see in the during the day, the fresh blue skies, that kind of sky was seen. So there is a emphasis on the blue sky, that's why blue is written twice. And then on the other side, what could she see? There was a deep ditch. There was a land where, when the road ends, the land was quite deep. Okay, and after that there were acres and acres of green fields. Okay, there were these huge fields, and here see there is a emphasis on the green fields. Like, it was all green wherever you could see, till the eye could see, everything was green over there. Oh, it was all so wonderful. Suddenly she was startled by a voice. Listen, child, said the voice. You shouldn't stand like that. Sit down. When she was thinking that it is so wonderful, then only she was startled. She was uh, a little shocked, not in a like in a good way, shocked in a good way, startled. Like she got jerked up a little bit to when she heard a voice. And what was that was saying? That, listen, child, you shouldn't stand like that. Sit down. She was standing on the seat, and if something like speed breaker came or something, then she would fall and she would hurt herself. So that's why somebody said to sit down. Sitting down, she looked to see who had spoken. It was an elderly man who had honestly been concerned for her, but she was annoyed by his
attention. He was actually worried about her. That's why he said, but she was very annoyed by his attention. She was like, "Why is he paying attention to me? Let me do what I want to." "There's nobody here who's a child," she said haughtily. "I've paid my 30 paise like everyone else." Haughtily means proudly. She was quite proud that she has paid like everybody else, and she said that there's no child over here. So she was like, "I'm also like equal to everybody else, all the other passengers." The conductor chimed in, "Oh, sir, but this is a very grown up madam. Do you think a mere girl could pay her own fare and travel to the city all alone?" So the conductor chimed in means spoke in between. When these two were talking, he spoke in between and said, "Oh, sir, but this is a very grown up madam. Do you think a mere girl could pay her own fare and travel to the city?" Now, jokingly, the conductor said that, "Can you imagine a little girl, mere girl means only a girl, only a little girl. Can you imagine that a little girl will pay her own money and travel to the city alone? She's a very grown up madam. She's not just a small little girl, but she's a grown up madam." The conductor chimed in. Okay. Wali shot an angry glance at the conductor and said, "I'm not a madam. Please remember that, and you've not yet given me my ticket." Now she was getting angry that they're making fun of her, or why are they giving her attention and all that. So she's asking for her ticket, and she's saying that I'm not a madam. "I'll remember," the conductor said, mimicking her tone. Mimicking means copying her tone. So the conductor copied her tone, mimicked her, and said that, "I'll remember that." Everyone laughed, and gradually Vani joined in the laughter, and gradually her anger faded away and she started laughing herself with everybody else. The conductor punched her ticket and handed it to her. "Just sit back and make yourself comfortable. Why should you stand when you've paid for a seat?" "Because I want to," she answered, standing up again. "But if you stand on the seat, you may fall and hurt yourself when the bus makes a sharp turn or hits a bump. That's why we want you to sit down, child." So, here there is a conversation between the conductor and Valli. He gave her a ticket and he said that when you paid for a seat, so why don't you sit down? So she said that I want to stand, and she stood up on the seat again. So then the conductor said that, "Please sit down. If you stand, you'll fall and you'll hurt yourself. So you should sit down." And then he called her a child. And then she again got angry that, "I'm not a child, I tell you," she said irritatively. "I'm 8 years old." And she got angry on him. And then he said, of course, how stupid of me. 8 years, my. So again, he's like everybody is so amused by Vali's conversation and how she's acting. She's a little 8-year-old girl, but she's acting like a grown up, and so everybody is like enjoying that kind of scene in front of their eyes. The bus stopped. Some new passengers got on, and the conductor got busy for a time. Afraid of losing her seat, Vali finally sat down. An elderly woman came and sat beside her. "Are you all alone, dear?" she asked Vali as the bus started again. Vali found the woman absolutely repulsive. Repulsive here means causing strong dislike. She didn't like her. Instantly, she was like, "I don't like her." And such big holes she had in her earlobes, and such ugly earrings in them. And she could smell the betel nut the woman was chewing, and the betel juice that was threatening to spill over her lips at any moment. Oh, who could be sociable with such a person? Who could be sociable with such a person? Wali thought. Here, Bali is describing why she did not like her, and that is because she had big holes in her earlobes, like where we wear our earrings. Those are the earlobes, the holes in which you wear the earrings, and then she had huge earrings in them, ugly earrings in them, not huge, but ugly earrings in them. And she could smell the betel nut that she was chewing it. It was about to, the juice was threatening to spill out of her mouth. Sure. So, Bunny thought that how could somebody talk to such a person? She's so dirty and not even clean and all that. Yes, I'm traveling alone, she answered curtly, and I've got a ticket too. Curtly means showing displeasure. She did not like it and she showed it with her tone. And she said, yes, I'm all alone and I have a ticket too. Yes, she's on her own to. Yes, she's on her way to town, said the conductor, with a 30 paise ticket. Now again, the conductor started mimicking her and making jokes about her and telling the elderly woman that Yuvali is traveling alone. Oh, why don't you mind your own business? Said Vali, but she laughed all the same, and the conductor laughed too. Vali said that, but she started laughing. But the old woman went on with her drivel. Is it proper for such a young person to travel alone? Do you know exactly where you're going in town? What's the street? What's the house number? Now, dribble, silly nonsense. According to Vali, she was like, talking nonsense, and she was like she was concerned that how could such a small girl travel alone? Do you know where you want to go, which house you want to go to? And but they Bali thought that she's just talking nonsense, and you needn't bother about me. I can take care of myself, Bali said, turning her face towards the window and staring out. Her first journey, what careful, painstaking, elaborate plans she had to make for it. She had thriftily saved whatever stray coins came her way, resisting every temptation to buy peppermints, toys, balloons, and the like, and finally she had saved a total of 60 paise. How difficult it had been, particularly that day at the village fair. But she had resolutely stifled a strong desire to ride the merry-go-round, even though she had the money. Thriftily spend money carefully. Now here she's thinking that how she had saved those 60 paise. She also wanted to go on the merry-go-round, but she didn't go. Or when she went to the fair, she had the money, but she controlled herself. Here, resolutely stifled, suppressed, controlled with determination. She had the determination to travel the bus and go to town. That's why she controlled herself. She controlled her desires of going on the merry-go-round or buying toys or peppermints, balloons, and all those things. After she had enough money saved, her next problem was how to slip out of the house without her mother's knowledge. But she managed this without too much difficulty. Every day after lunch, her mother would nap from about 1 to 4 or so. Vali always used these hours for her excursions as she stood looking from the doorway of her house or sometimes even ventured out into the village. Today, these same hours could be used for her first excursion outside the village. Ventured out means went cautiously, courageously. When her mother napped, she ventured out. She moved out of her house carefully and went wherever she wanted to. First, she used to go in her own village, and now this is her first um travel to the town outside of her village. And she's also telling how difficult it was for her to save those 60 paise. Then let's see the next paragraph.
The bus rolled on, now cutting across a bare landscape, now rushing through a tiny hamlet or past an odd wayside shop. Sometimes the bus seemed on the point of gobbling up another vehicle that was coming towards them or a pedestrian crossing the road. But lo, somehow it passed on smoothly, leaving all obstacles safely behind. Trees came running towards them but then stopped as the bus reached them and simply stood there, helpless for a moment by the side of the road before rushing away in the other direction. So, this paragraph is telling us how the bus was maneuvering on the road. Maneuvering means moving on the road. Okay. The bus rolled on, now cutting across a bare landscape. There was a landscape which was bare. Bare means empty, without any houses and things like that. Rushing through a tiny hamlet or past an odd wayside shop. There was also an odd shop there. I mean, there is a bare landscape where there is nothing, but there is a shop which is quite odd, right? So it was there. Sometimes the bus seemed on the point of gobbling up another vehicle. And then when we are driving, all of us know that sometimes our car or whatever vehicle we are on, it is overtaking the other one. ठीक है तो the thing like gobbling up another vehicle means taking over. Okay, moving, leaving that vehicle behind on the road. The bus left that vehicle behind. They felt like the bus is going to leave that vehicle behind, a vehicle that was coming towards the bus. Towards them here means the bus and the people sitting inside them, inside the bus. Okay. Or a pedestrian crossing the road. Pedestrian crossing the road. Pedestrian is the person who is walking on the footpath of the road. Okay. So they also crossed the road. So because this was her first journey, she was quite scared that the people who are crossing the road, they might get hit by the bus and they might die, or they might, injure themselves. So this is from a point of view of the girl. But somehow the bus was running smoothly. It passed every obstacle. Obstacle means something that stops your journey or travel. Okay. So the bus went smoothly, leaving them behind. There were also trees that came running towards them, but then stopped as the bus reached them, and simply stood there helpless for a moment by the side of the road before rushing away in the other direction. You can see how beautifully the writer has explained. Whenever we are driving on the side of the road, we have like trees. They don't move. The trees don't move. But here the writer has written that the trees are running towards them. It's not actually the trees which are running towards them, it's the bus that's moving. They are moving, but because she's a little child, okay, she's a little girl, according to her thinking, she might think that the trees are running towards her. So the writer has written according to the thinking of a child. But the meaning over here is that the trees are still there only wherever they are. They are planted there, but the bus is moving towards them. Okay. Suddenly, Vali clapped her hands with glee. A young cow, tail high in the air, was running very fast, right in the middle of the road, right in front of the bus. The bus slowed to a crawl, and the driver sounded his horn loudly again and again. But the more he honked, the more frightened the animal became, and the faster it galloped, always right in front of the bus. We can see in the picture on the screen. See, there is a cow. Her tail is high in the air. Now, Vali is a little girl. When she sees the cow, she is clapping her hands with glee, with utter excitement. Glee means utter excitement, a lot of excitement. And the cow is running just in the middle of the road and in front of their bus. and the driver slowed down the bus. Crawl means the children who crawl on their knees and their hands, like that, or in that speed. The bus came to that speed of a crawl, and the driver is honking the horn again and again very loudly, and the animal is getting even frightened, and it's running. Galloped means running even faster and just right in front of the bus. Somehow this was very funny to Ali. She laughed and laughed until there were tears in her eyes. Hey lady, haven't you laughed enough? Called the conductor. Better save some for tomorrow. She was laughing so much that the conductor thought that she's laughing a lot and she should save something for tomorrow also. At last the cow moved off the road and soon the bus came to a railroad crossing. Now after that, what happened? There was a railroad crossing, a train crossing that we see. A speck of a train could be seen in the distance growing bigger and bigger as it drew near. Then it rushed past the crossing gate with a tremendous roar and rattle, shaking the bus. Then the bus went on and passed the train station. From there, it traversed a busy, well laid out shopping street and turning entered a wider thoroughfare. Such big, bright looking shops, what glittering displays of clothes and other merchandise. Such big crowds. Now, after that, after the cow left the road was clear and the bus reached the railway crossing. Okay, and from there, from a distance, Bali could see, they could see the passengers of the bus could see that the train was looking very small, and then slowly, it was getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and then suddenly it crossed the railway crossing gate where the bus was standing, and with a tremendous roar, with a lot of noise, like with a lot of sound of the train with the horn, no? We all experienced that. So, just like that, it passed, and then the bus started shaking with that roar. Then they crossed the railway crossing, then they went on a busy, well laid out shopping street. There they could see that there was a wider thoroughfare, big, bright looking shops. There were big shops, that was a market, and there were glittering displays of clothes. Whenever we see in a market, it looks very attractive, and every child wants to go to that market, whether they, I mean, buy anything or not. But the markets are very attractive, they are glittering with displays of clothes and other merchandise, and there were big crowds. It was a busy street. Struck dumb with wonder, Wali gaped at everything. Thoroughfare is a busy public road. It's written on the right side of the page. You can see if you don't understand. I guess everybody did. Merchandise here means things that are being sold in the shops. Okay. And when Wali saw this, she was she struck dumb with wonder. Like she sat quiet. She was so overwhelmed and she was so excited and she was so shocked also in a good way to see such big shops and such a good busy market that she was she could not speak. She was struck dumb. She could not speak and she was dumb with wonder. She was so wondered, like she was feeling, wow, this is so wonderful. And she gaped at everything, like looking at everything without speaking, you know. Then the bus stopped and everyone got off except Wali. Hey lady, said the conductor, aren't you ready to get off? This is as far as your 30 paise takes you. Now the conductor said, will you get off the bus or not? Only 30 paise will take you till here only. So, no, Wali said. I'm going back on this same bus. She took another 30 paise from her pocket and handed the coins to the conductor. She said, I'm going to go back from this same bus. And the conductor was He could not understand, like, she is coming here for what reason? She wanted to go to the market, he thought. But then he said, why, is something the matter? Well, he said, no, nothing's the matter. I just felt like having a bus ride, that's all. Then the conductor asked, don't you want to have a look at the sights now that you're here? All by myself? Oh, I'd be much too afraid. Now Vali is afraid. Now she's saying, all by myself. How can I go to the market alone, all by myself? I'm too afraid to do that. Greatly amused by the girl's way of speaking, the conductor said, but you weren't afraid to come in the bus? He was so amused. It was like, obviously, it was ironic that she came on the bus, she wasn't afraid of that, but now she's afraid to go to the market all alone. Nothing to be afraid of about that, she answered. Well, then, why not go to that stall over there and have something to drink? Nothing to be afraid of about that either. Now, the conductor suggested her to go to a stall which was in front of the bus and go there and drink something, and there is nothing to be afraid of that. He was trying to motivate her. And then she said, oh no, I couldn't do that. Well, then, let me bring you a cold drink. Then the conductor says, okay, fine, then I'll get you a cold drink. Wally said, no, I don't have enough money. Just give me my ticket, that's all. Now only she had 60 paise. She could go and she could come back. And that too she had saved for a long time. So she said that I don't have the money. I just want my ticket and that's all. So the conductor said, it will be my treat and not cost you anything. It is my treat, I'll pay for it. No, no, she said firmly. Please, no. The conductor shrugged and they waited until it was time for the bus to begin the return journey. Again, there weren't many passengers. Won't your mother be looking for you? The conductor asked when he gave the girl her ticket. No, no one will be looking for me, she said. Then the bus started, and again there were the same wonderful sights. Again, there were the same wonderful sights. Wally wasn't bored in the slightest and greeted everything with the same excitement she'd felt the first time. But suddenly she saw a young cow lying dead by the roadside, just where it had been struck by some fast moving vehicle. She was enjoying the view as her bus journey was going, but then suddenly she saw a young cow which was lying dead by the roadside. On the side of the road, it was lying dead. It seemed as if she was struck by some fast moving vehicle. Isn't that the same cow that ran in front of the bus on our trip to town? She asked the conductor. The conductor nodded, and she was overcome with sadness. What had been a lovable, beautiful creature just a little while ago had now suddenly lost its charm and its life and looked so horrible, so frightening as it lay there, legs spread eagled, a fixed stare in its lifeless eyes, blood all over. She was overcome with sadness. Spread eagled means spread out. Her legs were spread out, her eyes were lifeless and still, they were not moving, there was blood all over. And looking at the sight of a dead cow, it was frightening for the little girl. She thought that she was so lovely a few moments ago. Now it is so frightening to look at her. The bus moved on. The memory of the dead cow haunted her, dampening her enthusiasm. She no longer wanted to look out of the window. She sat thus, glued to her seat, until the bus reached her village at 3:40. She stood up and stretched herself. Then she turned to the conductor and said, well, sir, I hope to see you again. So, after she saw the dead cow, she was
haunted by the sight. Obviously, she's a little girl. She was frightened, and all her enthusiasm was a little dim. She just sat there on her seat, glued to it, and not running around here and there, just like she was standing on a seat while going to the market, going to the town. She wasn't doing that. She was sitting still, and when her bus reached her village, she stood up and then she greeted the conductor that she will see him soon again. Okay, madam, he answered her, smiling. Whenever you feel like a bus ride, come and join us, and don't forget to bring your fare. This is what the conductor said. She laughed and jumped down from the bus. Then away she went, running straight for home. When she entered her house, she found her mother awake and talking to one of Wali's aunts, the one from South Street. This aunt was a real chatterbox, never closing her mouth once she started talking. Her aunt was a chatterbox. And where have you been? Said her aunt when Wali came in. She spoke very casually, not expecting a reply. So Wali just smiled, and her mother and aunt went on with their conversation. Yes, you're right, her mother said. So many things in our midst and in the world outside. How can we possibly know about everything? And even when we do know about something, we often can't understand it completely, can we? Oh, yes, breathed Wali. She was listening to what her mother was telling her aunt or what they were talking about, and Wali agreed with it that we can't know everything outside this world, and even if we know about things, we can't often understand it, can we? Now, here Wali is talking about death and life. In the beginning of the chapter, I told you that where we had read 2 3 lines that Wali comes to know about death and life. She comes to understand what death is. So here Wali is referring to that. When Wali said, "Oh yes," then her mother asked her, "What? What's that you say?" "Oh," said Wali, "I was just agreeing with what you said about things happening without our knowledge." "Just a chit of a girl she is," said her aunt, "and yet look how she pokes her nose into our conversation, just as though she were a grown lady." Now, here her aunt is kind of saying that she's a little girl, but she's interfering in our conversation, and just like a grown lady, pokes her nose, takes an interest in something that doesn't concern her. Her aunt thought that their conversation does not concern Wali, but still she is speaking in between. Wali smiled to herself. She didn't want them to understand her smile. But then, where wasn't much chance of that, was there? She didn't want them to understand why she was smiling, but was there any chance that they wouldn't? So, this is a story translated from the Tamil by K.S. Sundaram, illustrated by R.K. Lakshman. Please learn the writers' names and the chapters' names. It is easy to earn marks when you know the names. Even if you don't know the story, at least you know the names. And if there are any questions, queries that you feel you want to ask about the chapter, or any question or anything, you can always write down in the comment section and I would answer to your questions. After this, I have on the screen, you can see that I have put the exercises that are after the chapter, so you can do them on your own. If you are stuck somewhere, you can always ask me whatever you want to. And please don't forget to subscribe to my channel. I really work hard on these videos for you all, and please suggest me whatever chapters you want me to make videos on. Please do subscribe to my channel, and also click on the bell icon so that you are notified whenever I put out new videos. I put smaller videos also, I put bigger videos also, but I think when you have to study the whole chapter, then you have to make a little bigger video, because then you have to do justice to the chapter also. So happy studying. See you in the next one. Thank you guys. Thank you for watching my videos. I love you all.